Thank you for everyone joining. I'm joined today by Paul, who is the founder of Halo, and Hichem. So would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, maybe?
So yeah, my name is Hichem. I was born in Algeria. It's funny enough, a lot of people in the US, when you tell them you're born in Algeria, they're like, "Is it Morocco?" I'm like, "No, it's 10 times bigger than Morocco, and it's beside it." And I moved when I was young to Canada, and I've been working in the US ever since. And I'm always thank you guys for connecting today, and be part of the announcements I'm about to make. So thanks, Rosa and Paul, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Hichem. I'm Paul Hamilton, founder of Halo, and been doing this 20 years now, and we're in a very exciting phase. It's an incredible journey we're on.
Absolutely. Is that a real background? Is that a virtual background?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It could well be a fake background, but no, it's not. It is real. I'm up in the Scottish Highlands at the moment. I mean, it's beautiful here. This is where my mum lives, visiting her for a few days with the kids, and I came up on the sleeper train from London to Inverness overnight last night. It's an amazing
Ah.
service. I'd recommend it if anyone hasn't tried that. I mean, you go to sleep in the city of London, very comfortable beds, and you wake up in the hills of the Scottish Highlands. You go through to the restaurant car, you have a full Scottish breakfast, and then, yeah, it sets you up for the day. It's fantastic.
So Paul, if you see Duncan MacLeod from Highlander, say hello for me. I'm a big fan of the Highlander series and movies. That's to me, it's the
So this is
best
actually
movie ever.
this is I'm about 20 miles away from where Halo was born. Like in the original days, it was the roots of Halo back in the Net Help Desk days, was north of Inverness. Yeah, that's where, yeah, it's from round this neck of the
I
woods.
think that's the best way to describe Halo. People say, "Is it a new product?" And I go, "No, it's been around for over 20 years. It's an older gentleman with the heart of a young guy."
So it's really exciting to have Hichem here today. I was wondering if you'd like to sort of talk a bit about why Halo.
Why Halo? It's an interesting story. I've been working in the tech industry for over 25 years. I know I look younger than my age, and almost pushing 50 now. It's interesting how technology. I know, it's surprising, right? I'm not 50 yet,
Yeah.
almost. I'm 47.
Yeah.
So, when you're 40 years old, I'm 35 when you're at this age. So the interesting part is technology changes over time. And we talk a lot about the advent of AI and the impact that it has on our daily lives and jobs and those things. But technology been changing over time. Why Halo? A friend of mine actually introduced me to Halo. He was watching F1 race and saw the logo, which is brilliant. And I think this is why we are here today. And I was looking into selecting an ITSM solution, which is the backbone of tech, for an idea that I had over years, which is, can we bring cutting edge solutions, technologies that are reserved for bigger enterprises, to like British Airways, or that can afford to pay for these technologies, that they have the people, and can we bring that technology to the smaller businesses? Because what AI is doing, it's going to enable more entrepreneurs. So this question that I have in my mind for the past 2 years, especially in the last 6 months, can you create a unicorn with less than 10 people? Can you create a unicorn with 100 people? And if people don't know what a unicorn is, it's basically $1 billion plus evaluation company. And especially in the smaller market. So everyone competes at that higher market, the enterprise, and you have so many solutions, but no one is really looking at the smaller market. And I'm talking about, one thing that I'm passionate about is the legal side. And I'm talking about, legal firms, especially in the US where everyone is suing everyone, right? You have over almost 500,000 law firms in the US, and they usually range between the size of 5 people, 10 people, 15 to 25. And can you bring solutions to that market in order to make sure that they are secure, they have the best experience for their customers, they continue to innovate, and with COVID, what happened is it's been 4 years now, and we tend to forget, but there have been a few events in life, and we lived through COVID, right? We lived through September 11. So those events changed the route of life, the way we know it, right? And especially technology. So what COVID did, it allowed organizations to work remote. It allowed people to say, I want a better life balance. And I believe, Paul, one thing we spoke about is the book, your mantra, which is Maverick, that talks about, can you have a more humane approach to doing business, right? It's not just about selling, right? It's not about the next quota and the next quarter. And maybe you can elaborate that on, Paul, and the past discussions we had around that approach of running Halo. And I do talk a lot, sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, it's great to have you on, Hichem. I think it's about sharing the success of a business with everyone in the business, to be honest. That's what a lot of it's about, and finding ways for people to feel like, it is something when you're in a large organization, if you're successful, it's everyone that's contributing to the success, but it's not everyone that's like actually sharing the reward and the actual kind of outcomes of the success. And I think, and it's often not even any of the people in the business itself. It's quite often external groups that, even public limited companies, it's potentially millions of people that are sharing the success that are just nothing to do with the actual running of the business. So I think, in its essence, I think that's what Semco is all about. So Maverick, the book which you'll often hear me mention, it's all about this organization in Brazil called Semco, and it was a way where Ricardo Semler, he found a way for it to mean a lot more than just a job. It's almost like a way of life for people. People find their work fun. It's the whole concept of the opposite of work is not idleness. It's not leisure. It's idleness. It's you can find work recreational, actually, if you love what you do. And then it just, that's when you can do it on a Sunday, or you can just, I don't know, and if you need to do anything else on a Monday afternoon. And his follow-up book was a 7-day weekend, and that's what it's all about. It's finding ways to turn your business into something where it's so gratifying for everyone, and fulfilling that, there's just a lot more meaning and purpose.
That was really interesting what you were saying, Hichem, about the unicorns in small businesses, because obviously that is what Paul has been building. I was wondering whether there are any limits on the size that you want Halo to get to.
I think what you have to be careful, I think, is to become a prisoner of your own success. And I think every company starts with that mindset. We look at Apple, the way they started in the 80s, and you have to go against the status quo. So how do you continue to expand and still keep that mindset towards your employees first? Happy employees, happy clients. And then, obviously your clients and your partners, right? So far, being a Halo client first, when we met Paul and the team, as we were looking to, start the new business, which is the big announcement today, which is AdvntBlanket, which is a company focused on providing solutions, combined solutions for different sectors. And the first one we focus on is the legal sector. More than 500,000, legal firms out there. They range between 5 to 25 people, employees. No one is taking care of them. They have more challenges than the big enterprises. They deal with medical data. They deal with security. With COVID, what's happening, most of their people are working remote. They have now to account for providing, mobile apps for their customers, right? To be able to look at the legal tickets. They have to have cybersecurity. But these companies, the smaller companies, don't have dedicated IT. They sometimes deal with managed services that repair a PC. They don't have mobile security. So the reason why we chose Halo is very simple. It's at the core of the business is what I call IT operations or IT service operations. And when we look at Halo, it's more than just the name HaloITSM. It's actually HaloESM, which is Enterprise Service Management, where you can actually bring, different players within the organization and outside the organization, where you have a legal firm, that's working with another legal firm in, for example, a different state in the US, because I cannot practice in Georgia, but I'm in Florida, for example, or in Texas. So how do you make sure that when how the data transacts between the different entities is not only secure, but it's traceable, and I can report on it? So what we're doing, we're taking Halo as the core of the business, and we're plugging in, solutions, right? Like NinjaOne, Huntress, Phoenix Spire, Verima for IT operations, Lansweeper, and so on. So we're building an ecosystem for our clients, and that's what we call technology as a box, right? And this idea has been in my mind for decades, to be honest. I think the first time I got this idea was at a conference in 2015. And I was never been able to make it happen because of price. All the solutions I've been looking at, number one, they're not flexible. They have a high entry point. So, when you start a startup, you don't necessarily have that luxury to, pay $100,000 for a solution, just one solution, or 150 or 50 or 10,000. So the entry point, and Halo, they've been supportive to offer us amazing, entry point pricing and the support to build this legal offering that's based completely on Halo and around 15 solutions that complement to be able to achieve our goal, which is amplifying business intelligence and following our 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are really looking at, how do I have the best connected experience for my customers? How do I make sure that my company is completely secure, the transaction is secure? How do I continue to innovate? And how do I automate conversations, right? How the work flows between my customer to the legal representative, to the partner, and so on. So it's a very interesting, reason why we are here today.
That's an interesting one, talking about the pricing, because I know that's something that Paul sort of has a lot of thoughts on in terms of Halo and positioning it within the industry. I wonder whether you want to elaborate on that a bit, Paul.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned it today, because it's only yesterday I was having a conversation with, and when I was explaining all about like what's actually possible with Halo and the price points, the sentiment was that this just sounds too good to be true, and we hear that time and time again. And people say, like, why don't you put your prices up? It's you can sell it for so much more. And we just think, well, if you look at our cost bases, and we've been doing it for so long now and we've done it in a very organic way. It's very much truly product led. It's not, there's a lot of sales led, brand led. There's other ways of doing it, but in terms of delivering the most cost effective solution for the client, by far the best way to do it is product led. It took us 20 years to get to that point where the product was like the product market fit was bang on. And at that point, and as we know in software, like, it doesn't take, and this is what Hichem was saying about asking that question, like, can you get to $1 billion company with less than 10 people? I saw someone the other day, they said they believe you can get to $1 billion company with 1 person. And I think there's so many large incumbent organizations out there now that they really will be challenged by organizations that just have unmatchable agility. And Halo, I mean, we're not 10 people, we're now several hundred people in 5 offices around the world, but we're still very, very lean compared to these guys, which does, going back to the price point, yeah, sure, we could go and double, treble, quadruple even, and we'd still make some sales. But do you know what? That's not, like, we firmly believe that we've got this 10-year vision, and we believe we'll be market leader. We just have to stick to our guns, keep doing what we're doing. To be honest with you, we'll be bringing the market more into it'll become into a more functional state. I think will be more equilibrium. Enterprise software is far too expensive for what it is. There's so much inefficiency in these organizations. If you look at and you can even see it, like, there's so much these days with people, I don't know, saying that they're working six-figure salaries, and then they're not doing anything for a year, and you hear they're testing the system, and it's crazy what people can get away with in these
Well,
organizations.
there's a study, Paul. They say 30% of people within larger organizations don't do nothing or almost
I'm not
nothing, right?
surprised.
That's a figure I saw years
I
ago.
hear
Um,
the actual software development teams that on average, like in terms of actually hours in the day, it's like 10% that they're actually doing productive coding. We're at like 90% plus. Like even like everybody on our team, even our CTO Daryl, unbelievable person. He's still coding like 50% of his time. He loves it, and that's the other thing. Like he absolutely loves coding. And you can imagine what effect that has on the rest of the team. And because we don't have these management layers, it means that people like our CTO or Daryl's or GMs or Tim's or whoever, they can just Tim Barrow's another one. He spends half his time coding because they love it, and it's all about just finding ways for people to be able to do what they love doing. And again, it comes to like in terms of delegating and trusting people and empowering and making it fulfilling for everyone's roles. It all feeds into this culture that not only going back to the cost and efficiency, not only does it allow you to have much lower overheads and costs, which allows you to provide lower pricing to your clients, but the actual service and everything, it's so much. As we got feedback today, I don't know if you saw that, Rosa, but the client in, was it Florida, just say like they couldn't believe the awesome experience, and just making the point that it's not just about being smart and being knowledgeable and knowing your platform. It's about being people, and like people who you just would be comfortable just going out and having a drink with, like to a cafe or a pub or whatever. Just and that personal side of it is honestly what Halo's all about as well. And in terms of when we first met you, Hichem, we could just straight away, I knew that there's someone here who's got a bundle of passion, very smart, knows his stuff, and like we got the history, like he knows the industry really well. We were like, we want to work with this guy.
and you forgot good looking. That's my hashtag, good looking.
Absolutely, these Algerian good looks. Absolutely,
it's the North African blood. No, I think you're right completely, Paul. I think when we met, I did drop a lot of F-bombs, so sorry about that. But I was so excited, finally, we had found the heart of our business, to anchor around it, amazing products. And this is what I respect a lot with Halo, is the ability to work with others, and I think I recommend everyone to look at the YouTube video that you did with Rosa, where you talk about, we want to focus on what we do best, right? And I think what happens, the problem is, is the way businesses are built, right? You go public, then you need to show numbers, right? And you need to continue to grow. And what happens is, instead of, and I think this is what kills any good IT product, not necessarily just ITSM or ITOM, it's you start somewhere and you build an amazing set of clients and you build a fan base and people are passionate, right? Really, people are passionate about tech. You would think people are passionate about Star Wars, about Marvels, I know I am, but people are passionate about tech, and the thing is, and even you get insulted for sharing your views sometimes. And I got my share of insults the past week. But funny enough, you also have people who supports as well. The thing, in order to get more, then you start to go against the same partners that allowed you to build what you have. And I would respect about Halo is the Halo way. And now I call it going all the way, not just the high, it's basically the fact that you said, we want to focus on what we do best. And what we do, AI is not an option. AI is part of the solution. It's not 30% on top of the total spend. It's not 50%, and then you give good discount. No, it is included in the pricing. And I believe that Halo will be the first full AI automated solution, the best of the best within the next 6 to 12 months as it continues to grow. You also said integrations are free. that you don't have to pay to integrate. And we do what we do best. You can integrate with over 175 solutions today. And the fact is, you continue to stay by your clients. We have a customer in the legal sector that is looking and got PhoenixSpire. PhoenixSpire is an amazing solution to encrypt files. And when we look at cybersecurity, you can have the best defense. Someone will get in. Somehow, someone will be able to get in behind closed doors. And if they get those files, guess what? PhoenixSpire encrypts those files. So working with PhoenixSpire, we met with your team, and now we're building an integration. It didn't take much. It took one conversation. We said this client needs it, and it's something that we can add to the legal sector that will bring immense value. And now we're building that integration. So the fact that you have AI included, as I mentioned, the fact that you have integrations included, and you continue to build the best of the best, and honestly, you can turn Ninja One integration within 5 minutes. And you also integrate with your competition, which is an amazing thing to do for free. I've never seen this before. This is the first time I'm looking at this. The fact that approvers, this is immense thing. Approvers, people who connect only once a month or once every 3 months to approve a change or approve a request, they don't have to pay in Halo. And I repeat it again for the people listening here. Approvers are free in Halo, completely free. And to me, that was mind-blowing, which means I can create a business that I anchor around Halo. I make money as a businessman, obviously, and my clients are paying less with more value, right? So I'll just recap. Integrations are free. AI is free, and it's amazing AI. It's one of the best ones I've seen. And we have the ability to have approvals for free and also add actions in the portal. How much time it takes to configure the employee portal in Halo? 1 minute. It's all click. It's the first AI, and you can see I wanted to be calm during this podcast and be more contained, but the more I speak about Halo, then the Halo way and the commitment. Number one, your commitment to not have investors in Halo. I was talking to some friends of mine in Miami, some hedge fund people and investors, and I was having a private dinner the other day, and I spoke about Halo, and the first thing they said, can we contact Paul and see if we can get in? And I'm like, I don't think so. But I said, stay and watch. So your commitment to stay true to your culture, and this is what attracts me the most. It's all about people, process, and product. And unfortunately, most companies, they look at products. Most salespeople, they go with products, and they hope, and no one thinks about the people aspect and the process aspect. It takes 3 things to make it happen. People, number one. You don't have the right people, nothing happens. Process, how does the work flows? How do I govern the work? How do I make sure things flow the right way? And then obviously, does this product do what they say they do at the end, right? And this is how you should look at defining and selecting a product. And you don't see this in RFPs. In RFPs, do you have a portal? Yes. Do you do this? Do you do that? None of the people aspect. With Halo, you don't need an army to manage it. You need a few people that go about their day, and they can manage and evolve and expand the platform by taking advantage of the ecosystem. And a lot of organizations use Ninja One, they use Huntress, they use Last Sweeper, and now with your new partnership with Verima, they use all these products, and it's interesting to get the ecosystem working together. And sorry, I do talk a lot. I actually started speaking at 4 years old, 4.5 actually, on my first trip to Paris, and they call it the Einstein syndrome. Google it, you'll see it. And especially boys who speak late, it seems like a sense of intelligence. And this is a joke. When I was 12 years old, I was supposed to go to people with special abilities, right? Smarter people, I guess, people with high IQ. And they were going to open a school in Algeria. and I was selected to go there. And then the war started. We had the civil war in the 90s, early 90s. Not a lot of people know about that. That's why we left and went to Canada. And we had the war started, so the school dropped. So I always make a joke. I say, I picked at 12. I was so disappointed. That's where I stopped. But joking aside, it's interesting to share stories, right? It's all about the people first. And then obviously the project doesn't work.
Yeah, just to pick up on a couple of things you said there, Hichem, I think, so the people and the speed at which we develop integrations. So the reason why we are able to be so agile and develop these integrations so quickly is because we hire developers for their, now this sounds crazy and people just don't understand it. They're like, what? Blows their mind. But we hire developers for their people skills, not their development skills. Most of our developers hadn't actually done any developing before they started at Halo. So they've all been trained in the same way, which make, in terms of working together, they can work so quickly. They know they code in the same style. But in terms of having these conversations with clients where they can talk at a very technical level, and I was on a call earlier today actually with a client, and just hearing our very, very technical person, just, there was a sentence they said, it was, and there were some issues which were quite challenging technical issues, some that were less, they were more trivial, but they came out and they said, I understand that all these issues are equally important to you as a customer. How many developers can talk like that, where they've got that level of like empathy with a client and understanding and just caring? Like, and I think that's it as well. Like, our developers care. It's not just about solving problems. It's about actually caring about the clients at the other end of these solutions. So yeah, I just wanted to add that bit about the people. And going back to the all-inclusive pricing model and how it is when you're saying about the AI is included, the approvers are included. Like, why would we charge for an approver? What? How much? If they're logging in once every 3 months, how much CPU is that using? How much of the actual coding skills, coding investment is that using? It's barely nothing. Why would we charge for that? That's why we're trying to come to the most optimal form of licensing, almost consumption-based billing. You've got concurrent licenses. You've got mixes of named and concurrent. We even now credit back unused logins at the next renewal period. There's all sorts of initiatives and things that we're doing to try and give the best possible value to our clients. And we're almost doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is trying to think of as many ways as they possibly can to complicate the pricing models so that they can extract more and more and more money from their clients. We're doing the opposite. It's like, how can we make this even lower cost, better value, better experience for our clients? And that's what Halo's all about.
Well, look, and I live it this morning alone. You know, Dan, who is amazing, managing the partnerships and the clients, you know, he sent me an email about our pricing, special pricing for our legal side. And it was amazing. I mean, it's so good. I have to be stupid to say no. So that's the reason why, you know, the other thing also, if we look at ESM. So one thing we didn't talk about is obviously, and, you know, it took me a while to understand it. The rebrand that you guys made a few years ago is brilliant. I mean, you know, the fact that you have Halo PSA, which we use for our managed services, you have Halo CRM, and you have HaloITSM. So HaloITSM, obviously, as the name says, competes against ITSM solutions, you know, big ones that exist, and also small upcoming ones, right? And also you have, you know, Halo CRM, which competes against Salesforce and the CRM solutions. And then you have, you know, Halo PSA that competes in the managed service space. But the thing is, it's actually the same platform. So what we're doing for our legal client, we're combining the Halo, and you can call it Halo 1 or Halo, you know, it's combining that, you know, Halo approach. And now I have, for my clients, the same system to manage a pure CRM from the sales pipeline, from the intake all the way to internal. So what we're doing for the legal entities, just so people can understand the sheer possibilities around the Halo ecosystem. So if I'm someone looking for a lawyer and I go to their Instagram, right? Then I can from Instagram connect to the Halo system in the back through the CRM integrations. That creates an opportunity which becomes a lead, and then someone will take care of it. And then we integrate into the legal case management, something like Litify or CasePeer or Fivine, really specific products for the legal sector, right? So we have that transaction flowing. Now, if I'm calling and we implement RingCentral along with Halo, you guys have an amazing integration there. If I'm calling the law office, then RingCentral picks it up and then goes into Halo, and that becomes a case, right? And then I can say, I'm calling about a case, or I'm calling about a new case, and I can get, Mr. Paul, are you calling about case 123? And we have that information in Halo that's synchronized with the legal case management system. At the same time, when that case come in with the possibility of Halo, we also use the workflows in ITSM. And I said it right. So now we have CRM features and ITSM features. And I can connect to the medical system, which is Satellite, that gets the medical records of a person with their consent. And then I upload those into the case, and I send them to the legal case management system. At the same time, I connect with Canopy Connect, and I get the insurance information, and I attach it to the ticket. You know how much time it takes for lawyers on average today to get the insurance information? 60 days. With Halo, 1 minute. Once the person approves, we connect and we update and we send to the legal case. You know how much time it takes with medical records? It takes forever. It takes 1 minute with Halo. How much time it takes to get the video cameras connected? 1 minute with the approval. So we're automating ITSM. At the same time, because people work with Halo, we created a portal, an internal portal, which is complete new concept within smaller legal firms. Now they have access to an internal portal where they can request vacation, they can request time off, they can request HR questions, they can open grievances, and so on. We can open facilities tickets. And you don't pay for those added enterprise business units. It's all an agent. If I have 3 people in HR that do case management, why would I charge per employee? It doesn't make sense, right? So I can take those 3, and that's only 3 licensing that now I have to manage and I can add. So you're looking at an organization, potentially 2,000 people that can only need 20, 25 license, not 2,000. So I think it's a different way to go in about things. And I think the more people start to look into it, they realize that there's other ways to look at things. There are more solutions. And I think people are starting to realize that.
I think the thing about that is obviously we talked about caring about people internally and having that job satisfaction, but it is thinking about our clients, and everyone here is very client oriented, as Paul was saying with the developers, but it's also in terms of the product itself. And we're very sort of people focused and making sure we're actually building what the clients want rather than just building what we want to build. I don't know if Paul wants to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it just, as I say before, really, it's about, I mean, we are customer obsessed. It's there's so many obsessive people, as you'll know, Rosa. There's a lot of obsessed people at Halo, and it's all about just making it work for the clients. We'll do anything we can, and it's very, very rare. I mean, can you think of any projects that have failed that we just, as long as, don't get me wrong, if someone comes and they're just doing something that's absolutely crazy and it's nothing like, I don't know, it's so left field that it just doesn't make sense to, and we'll just back out of that contract. And if it's something that we wouldn't even expect our clients to pay if it's something that we don't deliver. So it's, yeah, we're just that type of organization where it's just, we're very can do. The most important thing for us is to provide a solution to our customers that is going to make their lives easier and just deliver value for them. The financial side is more just a secondary, and this is the beautiful thing about not having external groups involved, which pretty much honestly only have one goal, which is a financial goal. We have so many goals, and I guess the financial goal is one of them, but there's so many other goals that are even more important than the financial side.
You know what's interesting? There's a good book I read 20 years ago, and I'm actually rereading now along with Maverick, and it's called The Diamond Cutter. And what's interesting is when we think about Buddhism, we think about people in robes, right? Orange robes and living in monasteries, right? But the reality is of Buddhism is so the person who wrote the book, he became a monk and he was a diamond cutter. In he was in the diamond business, which the luxury business, and he said that the attainment of that goal, financial goal, right, should not be at the detriment. But at the same time, you do actually need to build a successful business in order to achieve. So they go hand in hand. You have to do it in a certain way where, like you said, you respect people, you respect your clients. You don't need to overcharge them. You don't need to, you need to share the love. But because the ultimate goal is to be successful, right? And success is dependent of each one. For me, I remember in 2008, after reading, maybe Rosa, you know this, I read the book called Eat, Pray, Love. I'm not sure, Paul, if
I've
you
seen
heard
the
of
film.
the book. You've seen the film. So
Julia Roberts, I think.
Yes, exactly. So I was at the bar in Atlanta. I was doing work for Aflac, the insurance company, and I was having a drink. And the lady at the bar, we started to talk about spirituality and religion and the whole thing. And she said, "You have to read this book." And I said, "What? This book is for women. It's not for men." She goes, "Just read it." So I read the book, and I decided to go to Bali, and I actually met the holy man in the book, which is funny. I met the real the holy man, Kitut. I met him in Ubud, and he read my palm. He read my left palm, and he said that I was going to live a long life, to 100 years old. I was going to have 3 kids, and I was going to be married between 35 and 36. That's very precise. Yes, I don't know. It's weird. I was 30 years old at the time. So the funny part is how life is, even through setbacks sometimes. So I was actually engaged, and I broke up the engagement because she wanted to get married. I was 34 years old. I said, "There's no way I'm getting married at 34." So I waited till 36. So I got married at 36, and which is crazy, right? But the thing is, you look at that whole thing, the spirituality of it, right? You have to be successful. The holy man said that I was going to be very successful in life, right? And I should stick with technology, which I found weird. But then, the thing is, what is success, right? So maybe if you live in Bali, success is having a roof over your head and be able to feed your family, right? Success might be for someone to drive a Ferrari down the road, a red one, or a McLaren. I believe McLaren are nicer than Ferraris. But that is success to you. So success is different for each person, right? And I think with time, for me, once your financial needs are met, right? You get a nice watch, you get a nice car, you get a nice shirt. I think it's the idea is what is next, and I feel sometimes that's why a lot of people are not happy, right? And that's what drives organizations today, software makers today, most of them. It's always what's next, what's next, what's next. So, they're adding features that you don't need. They're overcharging for things you don't need. So, yes, you can be very successful, and there is nothing wrong with pursuing that success, but at the same time, be able to have a more human approach about it. So, and that's what makes this whole thing interesting.
So that book, Rosa, The Diamond Cutter.
Yes.
You've read hundreds of books. Have you read that one?
I've never heard of it, which is insane because
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. No, please do.
Hichem, you'll never come across anyone the young age of Rosa who has read so many books.
and to me, this very impressive. What is the book that you like the most? Don't say Maverick. Outside Maverick, what is the book that you like the most?
What, fiction or non-fiction?
Both. One each. Go ahead.
I mean, fiction's a bit easier. It's a book called The Third Policeman. It's very surreal. Lots of weird things happen. Non-fiction, I don't want to say Maverick because I think that's what you said I can't, and everybody will be like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
But But I have to say, absolutely honestly, it really did change my perception on a lot of things, because I
Nice.
thought work was this really boring corporate thing. And now I don't think that at all. And I've just had the best week this week, just editing this one
Nice.
video over and over again.
Nice.
It's interesting how I spent weeks or months telling Rosa this, but she didn't believe me. She had to go and read a book to find it.
I do things my own way, unfortunately. I won't listen to people. I have to be the right time.
I think I just wrote a new book. I haven't published anything in a long time.
Is it a sequel to Eat, Pray, Love?
No. Unfortunately, no. I'm not into. I'm trying to stop the eating part at least, and I'm trying to do more of the praying part. As you get older, obviously, you get more attached to your values, right? And you become more, religious or spiritual or something like that, right? We all have our own beliefs, but definitely trying to do less of the eating part. But I try. It's hard. But the thing is, I wrote a book and it's called Digital Conquers, right? And the interesting part is 75% of the book, I wrote it with ChatGPT to speed up, actually to prove a point, right? I was having dinner with Devon, Brian, a good friend of mine. So with Devon, Bram, and Max, and we were having dinner. And Devon is a CISO at a huge company, and he was the CISO of the IRS, and he was telling me how he's been trying to write a book for 10 years around his experience as a CISO, and then comparing his experience with Sun Tzu, The Art of War, right? And we were talking, and I started to share my experience. I was born in North Africa. I grew up in Europe and Canada, worked in the US. So I have more like a broader global worldview. And it got me thinking that a lot of Americans don't actually know a lot about history. And sometimes even if you say, Halo is from the UK, they're like, what, the UK? I go, England. They go, oh, okay, England. So the thing is, it got me thinking, and on the way home, I started to think about the parallel between cybersecurity and history. So I started to do research, and I actually, within 4 weeks, wrote an entire book and researched come up with 100, I know a lot, about history because I studied it a lot, but it's interesting how you take the history, how it repeats itself to today's challenges. And I think it's the same thing that we see today. It's the same thing that keeps repeating itself when it comes to the big software makers, again, committing the same mistakes. It's interesting to look at the parallel. So is AI going to kill what we do today as humans, right? I don't think so. I think it can help people. But one quality that I think everyone should have is what you're doing, is reading books, at least 1-2 books a week.
Yeah, I think it can potentially seem quite laborious, and there are other ways you can get information, articles or whatever. But the one thing about reading, well, I like audiobooks too. I think people often go for podcasts and other formats. The thing about a book is you have to sit down and listen to one person's point of view for that amount of pages, and you are engaging your actual critical thinking skills. Whereas a podcast, you get a diluted version, you don't get all of the viewpoints, or the viewpoints are said for you because it's a discussion like this. So maybe I'm telling people not to listen to this. But I think that's the really powerful thing about books, is that you have to it's not a passive activity, it's very engaging.
I read a research study recently which they compared someone a sample that had read the books, whether it's on Kindle or paper books, versus audiobooks. And you go back 12 months later, and in terms of the retention of the material in the book, far greater if it's actually a physical book versus the audio, which is really interesting, I think. Talking about books, does no one want to ask me what my favorite book is?
Maverick.
7-Day Weekend. 7 Habits. 7 Habits.
Harry Potter.
No, I can't say my favorite. No, it's so hard to pick a favorite, but I tend to honestly, it's just nonfiction, really. I don't know. I've always struggled with fiction, and so many nonfiction. But I do like Malcolm Gladwell stuff. Outliers, fantastic book.
Brilliant.
Just like, yeah, just all these observations on like society and questioning stuff and correlating data. I think it's fantastic. Some of the work he's done.
If you want to look smarter, if you go to a cocktail party and you want to have subject and look smarter, read anything by Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point, Outliers, David and Goliath. It's amazing. And also, one of my favorites author is definitely Robert Greene. And I recommend reading, The Art of Seduction, because you read about history. That's one book I totally recommend, Understanding People, reading about the 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, definitely anything by Robert Greene, anything by Malcolm Gladwell. And one of my preferred authors, actually, that changed my life in a better way, is John C. Maxwell. He's a minister. I'm not sure if you heard about John C. Maxwell. He's a minister. Have you, Paul?
Yeah. I've seen him mentioned recently. I can't remember in what context. Probably a quote in a book I've read somewhere. But in fact, I think does it. I've been reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the most famous business books of all time.
Yeah.
I think he's quoted there. I think that, I don't know what era John Maxwell's from, if it's because that's an old book, but
he's this era. He's still alive. He's around 70 years old, and he's a minister, and been writing books on leadership for the past 20, 30, 40 years.
Another book a book I read 20 years ago was Good to Great, Jim Collins. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there that stayed with me. Just like, I don't know, get the right people on the bus, make sure they're in the right seats. All stuff like that is fantastic. And I think, it's so hard to pick a book.
So thank you so much, both of you, for joining. Hichem from Miami and Paul in the Highlands.
Thanks, Rosa and Paul, for having me today.
Thank you, Rosa. Thanks, Hichem.
Thanks for watching this episode of the HaloIT podcast. If you like what you see, you can follow for more. And if you're interested in being a guest, you can email us at podcast@imaginedhalo.com.